Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney with you from the WELT studios in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It is finally here. It's race weekend. It's time to recap Indy 500 qualifying and the 109th running of the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Justin, we've made it. It's time for the big event.
We have, and too bad we don't have anything to talk about heading into the greatest spectacle of racing.
Very tame week for IndyCar world.
It's been one shot or the other, and it's downhill from here after the Weenie 500.
Yes, nothing could top the Weenie 500 in that pass at the finish.
For the lead.
Half a bun length for the win for Slaw Dog. Sonoran Dog having that blown engine.
I picked Sonoran Dog to win.
I went with, I think, NYC Dog because that was my choice. And we did a fantasy draft for IndyCar. And then, hey, why not? Let's pick. There are 4 of us. There are 6 Wienermobiles. I did not win.
You did not win? Well, hopefully our 500 picks are a little bit better than our Weenie 500 picks.
Absolutely. So we have a lot to get to. So we'll start with our 3 things from Indy 500 qualifying. I think you can guess 2 out of the 3 that we will be discussing. So let's start with a positive. I think let's start with something positive and happy before we get into
let's do it.
The scandalous stuff that happened last weekend. And the positive is Prema Racing not only qualifies both cars into the field, which we had our doubts. I think I picked Abel and you picked Shwartzman.
I picked Shwartzman to miss the race.
But we both had them in last row shootout.
Yes, I was just the kick in the butt that Prema needed, apparently, to put Shwartzman on pole.
But Robert Shwartzman, or Bobby, as one of my buddies and I called him over the weekend during Indy 500 qualifying, not only makes it into the Fast 12, the Fast 6, but he wins pole position for the Indianapolis 500. And as Will Buxton pointed out, he's a talented driver coming from Europe. They didn't have a backup car, but to see what this team has done, his engineer works for SpaceX, had to take time off. A former Team Penske employee who had to take time off this month to engineer the car for the Indy 500. Unreal. Let go by Penske, replaced, moves over. Eric, and I'm going to butcher this last name, Liedl, I think is how you say it.
She was kind of made to be the scapegoat for Newgarden in 23?
Correct.
As that team is why they didn't win the championship, blah, blah, blah. He was collateral damage effectively and bounced back in a big way in qualifying weekend.
So for what Robert Shwartzman did, and speaking of Joseph Newgarden, to his credit, he went on the IMS radio network when he was out for that jog, climbed up, chatted with Jake Query. They did a mock qualifying run, and before it, he said, hey, if we do a mock qualifying run, I'm just telling you, Robert Schwartzman's going to put it on pole.
Wow.
And to have that level of confidence, pretty crazy, but this was, I think, the most shocking thing I've seen in Indy 500 qualifying. I think it's one of the most shocking things that's a positive story that we've seen in IndyCar. I don't even know how far. I mean, yes, there's been surprise wins like Carlos Huertas, winning at Houston, fuel mileage thing, but this had to be the most surprising result I can think of for sure in Indy 500 qualifying. I mean, going back to Penske missing the race in 95? I mean, yes, Hinch missed the race, Ray Hall missed the race, and then ultimately was an injury sub. Alonso missing the race, but this tops all of those, maybe going back to Penske in 95.
It was the best that I can remember, the best moment, biggest upset you could say in terms of qualifying for a long time at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And the thing was, it wasn't just the driver or the team; it was a combination. Mm-hmm. You have to go back to 83?
Yes.
With Teo Fabi, but he was with Forsyth.
Yeah, and that had March Engineering with it, right? I mean, it was a powerhouse.
It was a powerhouse team. So you're looking at a combination, a driver that had never raced on, never been on an oval, and then a team that is brand new to the series, doesn't have a technical partnership, can't say, they're leaning on Penske or Ganassi or Andretti or whoever, and goes out and puts it on pole. And not just, I mean, putting it on pole is very difficult for the Indianapolis 500 because you have to qualify for the Fast 12. Then you have to go out the next day and qualify for the Fast 6. Then you have to go out when it's one more time when the pressure's on and put it on pole in the Fast 6. And Robert Shwartzman was able to do that every single time. And it was just absolutely mind-boggling what happened. And almost just, you didn't know. Even Shwartzman, he's like jumping up and down like a goober. Like, I don't even think he knew how to react, let alone the team. So it was just really, really cool to see. Yeah, first rookie on pole since Fabi, but to me, you'd have to go back into the archives to find the biggest upset in terms of pole qualifying in Indianapolis 500 history. Because Fabi 42 years ago put it on pole, but he was with Forsythe. That wasn't a new team to the grid. So it was just amazing what Shwartzman was able to do. What Prema. We talked about Shwartzman last week and talked about how impressive he had been in terms of the results and compared to the expectations we had.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we also put him in the last row shootout, both of us, and I had him missing the race.
Well,
everybody had him.
Yes,
right?
Yes, everyone had him on the short list. He was on that 3, 4, 5 drivers that everyone thought, okay, he's a rookie with Prema, a rookie team. On Friday, he was decent on the speed charts. But still, you're not thinking, because you're thinking, okay, he's going to crash, or you're thinking there will be an issue, or qualifying's a lot of pressure. This is his first opportunity. The fact that he went through, as you mentioned, it's not just the first qualifying attempt, which was really impressive on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's the Fast 12. It's the Fast 6. You have to do it not once, but 3 times. That, I think, is really what stands out to me. And some more of these superlatives. We mentioned first rookie on pole since Teo Fabi in 1983. First rookie team to win pole since 1984. Mayer Motor Racing, Tom the Gasman Sneva had pole, so obviously an experienced driver there.
Right.
First rookie team on the front row since 1995, and Tasman Motorsports with Scott Goodyear. First 500 pole sitter and first oval start. You go back to 1950 in Walt Falker. Courtesy of Nick Yeoman of the IndyCar
Walt Falker.
Radio. Exactly. Someone we've never heard of. So I think that really puts in perspective in terms of first rookie driver and rookie team. I don't think I didn't see the stat anywhere. I think there maybe someone found it like in the 1930s or something, but I mean, it just goes to show you how unprecedented and truly unbelievable this all was.
It definitely was. And you mentioned both cars having superb weekends. Callum Ilott didn't have to worry about being even close to the last row shootout. Felt like at least one, maybe even both Prema cars would have to battle in, and it didn't happen. And I think it just seemed like a perfect storm, because my reasoning last week for Prema having to struggle is if it had to chase the car throughout the weekend, they didn't have a mass amount of data or any data to fall back on from previous years. So not only, I think, did Prema come with a car that was really, really dialed in, but I think the weather did Prema favors. Whatever they did fit what the weather was. And it wasn't, you looked at what happened in terms of the heat on Friday and then the cooling on Saturday. Whatever Prema had, because the cars are so fickle with weather, is it never felt like Prema was chasing it. And whatever they had the setups to be was exactly what it needed to be over Saturday and Sunday with that weather and with the wind. So it just stars aligned, and you can't give Robert Shwartzman enough credit for the pressure and being able to deliver like he did. It's a great story, and he was a 200-1 odd. He faced 200-1 odds to win pole on Sunday.
Just wild. I mean, this is the IndyCar upset. I think you go back to Penske in 95 missing the race.
You put a $5 bet on him to win pole, you cleared $1,000.
It's just crazy.
It's just absolutely crazy. Now, when we talk more about the race and what we saw, especially on Carb Day practice, I think we're going to see Prema struggle.
Yes.
But before all that, the fact that that what they did last weekend is not going to take anything away. They could have DNFs the rest of the season, and it would still be, in my opinion, a successful year for Prema because of what they did.
Absolutely. I think this makes their season. It doesn't matter what the results are moving forward because they come in, they're not even a chartered team. They're not eligible, I guess they have a charter, but they're not eligible for Leader Circle.
Yeah.
And they come in and upset all the big boys. For the first time since 2016, this is pointed out by Greg Rakestraw, no Penske or Ganassi on the front row. You have Robert Shwartzman, a rookie, on pole.
Yep.
You have Takuma Sato, a two-time winner with Ray Hall, a team that otherwise has struggled outside of Sato the last couple of years. And then Pato O'Ward, who obviously we know that this is his best starting spot, first front row start as well. So just wild to see it play out like it did. And I think when you look at Prema and Robert Shwartzman, I think this showcased his talent and maybe opened some eyes. It opened my eyes. I knew he had a successful career over in Europe, was a Ferrari reserve driver. There were just no seats for him.
Right.
I mean, he should have been in line for an F1 seat. I think this really showcased his talent to the diehards, so people knew. I mean, people were really cheering for Robert Shwartzman to win at the track.
You were there and really became a fan favorite over the course of the qualifying weekend. When you look at qualifying, we talked about the good of qualifying.
Yes.
Let's talk about the not so good. When you're talking about Dale Coyne Racing and effectively battling their cars battling each other to make the race. We talked about Prema and how it isn't eligible for Leader Circle, doesn't have a charter or charters. And then you have Coyne, the second straight season in which one of their cars misses the Indianapolis 500 and battling each other to even make the race. I've had pointed comments about Coyne in the past in terms of the team. It once again was not a good weekend for Coyne. And as you look forward, where does this team find it going forward to bounce back? Because it's one thing to miss the race with one car, but when you're effectively bouncing each other out, where are we at with this team, Caleb? I don't know.
I think another thing to point out, Prema, it may be seen as an underdog story, and they may not have a ton of sponsors on the side pods. I know that Shwartzman picked up RealJet, which I think is founded by the former CEO of NetJets or one of those. But that'll be on the car for Sunday. But they have some very wealthy backers.
They do. I think
so. Money is like not
a bajillion.
Yes,
or something
money is not the issue. I know it maybe looks that way when you look at the side pods of those Prema entries. Whereas for Dale Coyne Racing, I mean, not only do they get a rookie who brings family sponsorship with Abel Construction, Jacob Abel, who ultimately failed to qualify. You get Miller High Life on a sponsorship deal that was not a distributor's thing. This was a national sponsorship. He misses the race. You have the BitNile founder, Todd Alt, moving over to Renus VK and continuing to sponsor him. So you have sponsorship. Yes, it's probably not top-of-the-line money, but you added Miller High Life. You added Mecum auctions for the month of May as well for Jacob Abel. I'm sure we'll see some of those stickers on VK's car for Sunday. But like you said, it's not a good sign when you felt like this team going into the season had a clear number one driver, a rookie who at least had flashes in the series formerly known as Indy Lights, and you had sponsors. And yet you're kind of in the same spot again. It has to be very disappointing.
Well, you have to wonder about Miller, and could you not have picked a better team to?
Well, but there's the tie-in with Abel from Louisville, Kentucky, Danny Sullivan, Louisville, Kentucky.
That's
true. It all made sense.
40th anniversary.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
So it's just unfortunate that that's how
I get
it
it,
out.
but it's just this is not sustainable for Dale Coyne Racing. It's just not, and you don't know when you look at other teams, predominantly Prema, that's already showing out in year one, and was actively trying to buy charters before the season started. Are we reaching the end of Dale Coyne Racing being a full-time team in this series? I say if you continue to miss the Indianapolis 500 with your drivers, it's definitely going to be. And it's been back-to-back years where one of your cars hasn't made it.
Yeah, I think that's a concern. Now, one qualifying does not make a season, right? And we've seen VK have really good results this year. Yes, he's starting in the back.
Right,
but
and that was the thing, too. I think maybe the most frustrating thing for me looking at Coyne is you have a guy that had never started, worse than 6th in the Indianapolis, 7th in the Indianapolis 500. It wasn't Rinus VK.
No.
It's not a case of, well, they got some inexperienced guys. Jacob Abel, if it was only Jacob Abel, you could say the combination of the car and the inexperience is the reason for his struggles. But Rinus VK knows his way around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He knows how to go fast around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in qualifying and just couldn't. And I think that's the most damning evidence for me with Coyne is you are completely lost in terms of going fast at the Speedway because you have a dude that knows how to gun it around the oval and just didn't have the power. And that's maybe the most concerning thing. And when you start to snowball and miss 500s, 1 turns into 2, turns into sponsorships start drying up and more personal money having to go into it. It can become a steep slope pretty quick. And Dale Coyne needs to bounce back the rest of the season. But it was a damning indictment on that team, the fact that they were 33rd and 34th last Sunday.
Absolutely. So I guess that's your third because we share the first two.
We did.
Obviously, the second one, let's talk Penske attenuator scandal. I mean, we don't need to get into the nitty-gritty on this. You can read that pretty much anywhere. There's a great article on motorsport.com. I'm going to butcher this name, Bozy Tatarevich, really explaining that for Penske, the understanding is this was not about a performance advantage. This was about an aesthetic thing where they were just trying to make it look better like how it used to be. The new spec attenuator changed and there was a gap, and Penske, of course, attention to detail, stuff like this, modified it, which you can't modify a spec part for it's a safety issue. And that's where we're at with that. Let's focus more on the fallout of attenuator gate. We had push to pass gate last year. We have attenuator gate now this year.
Which I don't find as damning on Team Penske as I did push to pass gate.
Yes.
And we're going to get into the details of the fallout. But to me, this was a tech issue.
Yes.
The fact that it was allowed to go through time and time again for at least a year.
Yeah, going back to the IMS open test, of last year?
Yeah.
Is the understanding? Definitely last year's Indy 500.
And not being flagged at all until randomly on Saturday. And what indications were it wasn't till a team or teams mentioned it to tech that it was kind of flagged. So for me, if IndyCar is not enforcing its own rules, then that's a problem. How many times do we hear tech is like, well, we're just trying to get the cars through. We don't have time. That shouldn't be. They should be really, really detailed on these cars, and they're the ones that write the rules, right? So we know and understand the fallout within Team Penske. I think as soon as Monday, you're going to see the fallout within tech for IndyCar, because to me, this goes to the blame of tech, is not seeing this the first time it was tried and say, hey, you can't do that. And Penske did it long enough where they were just, well, I guess it's fine, right? I don't think they gave a second thought to it being a rules violation because it wasn't flagged, but here we are.
Yeah, I think you have to, if you're IndyCar, Roger Penske, you have to make sure something happens with tech. And it sounds like it's in the works to have an independent body governing race control and tech. That's in the works. Now, how soon could that be? Probably next season. And if that happens, I feel like we've resolved everything from this incident. Well, on the team side,
yeah,
with Penske, and you pointed this out, and it's very true. This was the second such instance in 14 months to come out about Penske. And the push to pass thing, some of the excuses were laughable. Right? It was not believable. Now, with that second strike, if you will, that reflects poorly on team leadership. And Roger Penske, it's one thing for something to happen at St. Pete and come out at Long Beach. It's totally different for something to happen ahead of the Indianapolis 500, which means everything to him. Exactly. I mean, this is the event. And for strike 2 to happen and it happened at Indy, completely understand why he was not willing to put up with this anymore. And that's why the firings of Tim Cindric and Ron Rzuski, who was a team manager, or Cindric IndyCar president side. Remember, he stepped down from president of Team Penske.
Correct.
Phrase that is, I want to step down, and maybe that's true, but you can't tell me that there was another factor involved with that. And then Moyer also, Kyle Moyer let go as well. I mean, those are your three figureheads of the IndyCar side. But
other than maybe Ben Bretzman, that's your three of your four horsemen effectively within that team.
But Penske's not going to put up with the shenanigans, and I think strike two is Roger Penske back in the day. You wouldn't get past strike one.
Well, here's a question for you: do you think that those three are fired if Penske doesn't own the series?
No,
me neither.
But I think Roger Penske understands the optics, and he had to do what was done.
Absolutely.
And I agree with it, because I understand that some fans are saying, it's a witch hunt. No. Like, you have to look at the full 14-month timeline. You have to send a message
to the paddock.
Yes.
Right? And that's what this was.
And it's not just the teams and drivers. It's the sponsors. It's your major partners.
It's
Honda.
An OEM. Yeah, right.
So Honda, one could say very upset based on reading between the tea leaves, the stuff Marshall Pruitt had posted. So to me, I had no issue with the penalties. I mean, I said I won't be shocked if we see Cindric fired. Now I was surprised to see three of probably the four biggest names let go. But anyone saying they were surprised by these moves, I just don't think you understand how much Indy means to Roger, and that he would not put up with this anymore, because two strikes, I mean, you can't deny that was strike two, and you're not getting to strike three with Roger Penske.
It's a little different, as you mentioned, when it happens at Indianapolis. Now, we're both in agreement that this probably doesn't happen if he doesn't own the series, but you also don't mess with the chances of adding a 21st baby Borg to Roger and the team. You just don't do it. And I know it's the sexy topic all week. There's no, I want to say there's no way. It's nearly impossible of Joseph Newgarden or Will Power winning this race. I mean, so much.
Save that hot take for later.
Has to go, so much has to go right. But just basically saying this effectively killed all opportunity he has, at least for those two drivers. You still have Scott McLaughlin to win the Indianapolis 500. And you just don't do that with Roger. Okay. This race, this track means everything to Roger. And when you compound that with the growing frustration within the paddock and IndyCar partners, then you absolutely had to do something. Now, my question though is this independent committee, like, defined independent to me, because they would still be getting paid by the series, right? Like, how is this going to work?
They would have to be paid by the series, but be like an independent arm. Like, they'd be like paid contractors or something.
I guess, but it's like, I don't understand how.
Or do you set up like a fund that essentially funds it, and then the money's doled out? Yeah, right. I understand your question.
Define independent committee to me, because there's checks still going to be cut by Penske Corp. So I don't know if this is a solution. We heard James Hinchcliffe say a potential solution is he shouldn't own the series and own a team. And I know that's from the jump. This was always the concern, right? And we said it even last week. Imagine if Alex Palou was a Team Penske driver and this was the dominance we were seeing. Like, the outcry would be tremendous. So whether Penske and Penske Corp and Team Penske are to blame or not, they're always going to be in the crosshairs to point at. And so Roger's job, and what we saw Roger do earlier this week, is minimize the amount of flack that can be pointed at Penske Corp and Team Penske, and Roger specifically, when there seems to be or is something nefarious going on. My thing is, you're never going to completely get rid of that as long as Penske Corp owns the IndyCar series.
Yes, period. And I think he could get away with it, so to speak, owning the track, as long as IndyCar is, in charge of running the event.
Right.
Obviously IMS is the promoter, but IndyCar, in terms of the rules and technical stuff under IndyCar's arm, I think you get away with it. So you look at the changes for Penske. Luke Mason will be Joseph Newgarden's strategist now. Raul Prados will be the lead engineer. Ben Bretzman shifts from engineer to strategist for the Thirsty Threes and Scott McLaughlin. Malcolm Finch will be lead engineer. And then for Will Power, Jonathan Duguid will be strategist. He was with Will Power last year for the Indy 500. Because remember, Cindric and Rzuski were suspended for last year's Indy 500
Correct.
over push to pass gate. That's another thing that you have to add the layer. Like, it's not just what happened last weekend with the attenuators. It's the second such occurrence in just over a calendar year. David Faustino will be the lead engineer for Will Power. Look, these are talented people. I've heard of probably half the names on that list, so that tells you how deep the bench is for Team Penske. They'll be fine. But I think when you look at it, you can't modify a spec part. It's that simple.
And then try to change it. That was the biggest thing.
Yes.
Try to change it after going through tech and you're sitting on pit lane.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
you were caught right there.
Like, what are you doing? Like, not even knowing the rules for the part, but knowing the rules that you can't mess with your car on pit lane like that.
Well, and then there's
Bizarre.
a video posted on YouTube. AT Florio on Twitter had it of Newgarden's car going through tech when it was kind of discovered, hey, something's off at the rear, and they're pointing out, and the crew just is looking around dumbfounded. I mean, you guys did this.
It's a failure all around, but to me, the greatest failure is IndyCar tech.
Yes.
Like, you have to be better than this.
Yes.
Is something that is illegal, messing with the attenuator in any way, for effectively over a year. And then all of a sudden you catch it. So to me, as much vitriol for some people is being thrown at Team Penske, and I understand it, to me, the biggest problem is IndyCar tech. And I think we're going to see a fallout in personnel because of this in the near future after the Indianapolis 500.
Well, and I think because Team Penske's addressed everything on the team side,
correct,
I feel satisfied with everything that's happened. This from Doug Bowles speaking, which you posted, I mean, he looked haggard. We've never seen Doug Bowles look that haggard.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
The fear always was when he was named IndyCar president along with his IMS president duties, he'd be run into the ground, and it still remains my fear.
He looked pretty run into the ground, didn't he?
Yes. But Doug Bowles, talking this from Jenna Fryer, Doug Bowles talking on Penske qualifying, 30-minute window to get fast 12 through. Okay, one, you should double that.
I don't know why it's so...
Elephant in the room. Why did the tech team fail to find the piece? Attenuator, a safety piece, been modified 3 times in its spec lifetime per advancements. Teams cannot change it ever because a mod could compromise safety because it is a safety part, not always inspected. And then Doug said, this was a miss. Again, working to create that entity with no influence from Penske and Penske Entertainment, with the governing body, tech, and officiating separate. That's the key. That has to happen. And I don't think anyone believes that's going to happen this year.
No.
But it needs to happen for 2026.
But I just don't... I mean, is it an independent committee that is voted on by the paddock? They pick people? So they have a say in who's, like, that's my thing, is define independent committee. Are they just going to find 3 fans randomly and say, hey, you're the rules committee for this race?
Is it a rotating thing?
Yeah,
like,
is it a rotating thing? Is it maybe, I don't know, a rotating thing where it's a representative from each team? Because everybody will be like, well, that's silly. You can't have, team members on the committee. Well, you have Team Penske people that are on the committee. So that's the thing. I define independent committee for me. I don't know what the hell's the difference between what they have now and just getting new people that are still being picked.
I mean,
by
race control, obviously. Kyle
They're
Novak,
all Penske employees, people.
Entertainment employees.
They're all Penske people. I don't understand.
That is the issue. And to Roger's credit, he faced the music. It was a great interview with Jamie Little, where Roger basically owned up to everything, said that, this isn't acceptable, goes on and on and on, talk about it. You can watch it. IndyCar on Fox has it on their social channels. Everything that he said around this is satisfactory as long as moving forward that independent arm is A, created, and B, truly independent, which that's
truly
our ultimate question.
Which I think maybe it needs to be opened up to voted on by the paddock or whatever, and who these guys or women are put into this. I don't think it can be a Penske Corp comes out and says, hey, here's our new committee. And here it is. Like, there has to be some say within the paddock and maybe your OEMs, because once again, Honda's pissy because they're pissy about everything, it seems like.
But they should be about this.
I get it, but at the same time, and I told you, it's getting kind of old that Honda continues to hold this will we, won't we, re-up with IndyCar type thing. And first it was TV ratings and return on investment. Then it was hybrid, and now it's there's no transparency or there's too much power. Like, okay, Honda, are you in or out? Because
they'd have to have engine regulations to commit.
Do they? I mean, do you? Chevy's in. They don't have regulations.
True.
So I don't know. It's Honda, are you in or out? Let's come on. Just decide already, or tell us you're out so we can stop worrying about what you think.
Now, Marshall Pruitt had this tidbit, which was good. The fines, $100,000 per each team for the 2 and the 12, so $200,000 total. Money is paid to IndyCar, which right? But
it does go into a fund, doesn't it?
It does go. The series takes that money, distributes it within the Indianapolis area and the racing community, Boys and Girls Club, Indy Benevolent Fund, Women Motorsports Organization, etc. So
good.
Something good does come out of all of that nonsense.
Now, you mentioned last year those guys were not in, Rzuski and Cindric.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew that, and they had time to prepare for that. Now you're putting whole new voices, whole new strategies, whole new all that stuff onto these teams with effectively 2 hours to work things out with carb day practice.
Well, and it's not like, remember last year they were suspended from the grounds, but were they remote? Correct. This year there's zero help.
Yeah, there's zero. So are we overlooking the fact that these two drivers have whole new leadership on their cars?
I think
without much in the way of practice or anything. I think it's being all over because everybody keeps throwing out, can Newgarden go through the field? Like, he has a brand new strategist. He has a brand new engineer. Like, these things take a long time to work in and build rapport. And that, to me, if anything, holds these guys back as serious threats to win this race.
Just Newgarden won the pit stop competition as we record this on Carb Day, Friday, May 23rd. He had the fastest time in the final practice, and that's great and all, but like you said, there are other factors at play here, and we'll talk more about that in our race picks and what we think will happen on Sunday. One final thing on all this, Pato Ward, I think, kind of summed it up best. These guys don't need to do this.
Right? But then again, I think Pato's quote is accusing them of cheating. I just don't think they thought they were cheating.
But yet modifying a spec part that's compromised.
I know, but it should have been caught.
Is cheating. Yes.
It should have been caught.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was aesthetic. I think it was Penske perfect thing, right? We don't like this little line. I get it. I don't think they thought it was a rules violation. They should know, but you know who really should know? Tech.
Yes.
And that's to me is
that's the unresolved portion of all of this
for now. But I think that will be resolved as soon as Monday morning.
Yeah, I think it will be pretty swift. I think you can't make that change right away. Just
right.
I mean, within Team Penske, you shift people around, right? For IndyCar, it's a little bit different. You have to, make sure if you promotes from within, right? You got to check on that, and they may have to finish their current duties. It's just not something you're going to do.
But think about
right
it.
Away.
You said what? Doug Bowles said 30 minits for Fast 12, so that gives you barely 2 minutes per car. Two and a half.
2.5.
Come on.
And I get in watching the video of how they do it. I mean, yes, they can run through it pretty quickly in terms of like checking wings and things like that, where they have basically like carbon fiber pieces that go on to like measure things. But still, you need to give yourself more time. And I think that's just one of those things that you've learned. And hey, let's fix it and we'll move forward.
And enforce the rules you have put in place is the key thing.
Yes. Any other final thoughts on that? I feel like we've kind of resolved quite a bit. And I think everybody we don't need to break down
everything that happened. But the fallout I think we've seen, and it was drastic and it was needed, in my opinion. And we'll see what else. I don't think the fallout is done within IndyCar for sure, but there is still this lingering, and it's always going to be lingering, that when you have a person and an entity that owns the series, owns the track, and owns a team, you're always going to have issues. And I just don't see that completely going away until Penske Corp no longer owns the IndyCar series.
Yes. And I guess it's time for my third thing from qualifying.
Sure.
Let's see what I have from qualifying. I guess the other thing that stuck out to me was, I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot. I'm literally trying to think of. Okay, I got my third thing. With Graham Rahal and Indy 500 qualifying, I feel like it's a mental thing at this point.
I don't understand.
Something's in his head because, look, Takuma Sato, who crashed his car during the open test, and I understand you have several weeks to rebuild that, but for him to be front row, same team, I think for Graham Rahal, it's become a mental thing at IMS.
More than anything. I mean, look, Graham Rahal is a good race car driver, but the best race car drivers will say, I don't care how you set up the car, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to go fast. So what's stopping, or the incapability of Graham Rahal to say, set the car up like Taku's car and I'll figure it out from there. The inability to do that. And I know some people will say it's easier said than done. I get it. But some of the best of the best of the best drivers can say, I don't care. Look at Kyle Larson. I don't care what the car is. I will jump into it and I will figure it out and I will go fast eventually. And Graham Rahal can't do that. And that's my thing is he doesn't have it.
I think since Takuma Sato left that team as a full-time driver, I mean, you go back, 2023 is when Sato was with Ganassi, is that right? So I just think that was the change with Sato no longer being with them. And that year you had Graham Rahal, you had Jack Harvey, Connor Daly filled in a race, Yuri Vips did a couple, Catherine Legg, and Christian Lundgaard. Before that, you still had Sato on board, and I think that's when things, I guess the year before you did not. So after 21, which ironically is the last time Graham had a truly competitive car in the Indy 500, I think that's when things change. So to me, it's a mental thing. Something is just like, you start struggling and you just can't move past it. Right. And we'll see how he races, right? Because he usually races well through the field, did have issues during carb day practice, as did several other drivers. But yes, I guess that's my final takeaway, along with cars going airborne with added weight due to the hybrid. Little concerning.
It was a little concerning, but they didn't get upside down and they didn't go up in the air and get into the catch fence. I felt like, I don't know, the safety did what it was supposed to do. I mean, you're never completely going to eliminate air getting underneath the car. I don't know. I mean, what was it? What year was it?
2015.
2015, where they couldn't stop cars from getting airborne.
This wasn't that bad.
This wasn't that. So we've seen it where you're like, oh, they got to figure that out and quick. And they did, because they halted practice till they figured something out. This wasn't that. I guess it was. I'm not saying it's a non-story, because it is a story, but at the same time, I felt like I kind of felt like the car did what it was supposed to do in all three instances. But I will say, coming back to Graham Rahal, I think this was the latest example of a team that is putting a lot of stock into its A driver into somebody that's not an A driver. Until they get over the hump of Graham Rahal is not the best, should not be the best car in this team, they're not going to improve. They had Christian Lundgaard, who they should have held on to, figured out a way to hold on to. Christian Lundgaard, I think, is capable of at least being better than Graham Rahal. Maybe he's not an A driver for a team, but in my opinion, he's a better talent at this point of his career than Graham Rahal, with a brighter future, and you let him go. I mean, granted, he went to a McLaren, so money was a big factor.
Yes.
But the point being is Rahal let him in Atlanta. Their lineup right now is Rahal, DeFrancesco, Louis Foster, which means Rahal is your one. And he's not a one. He's not an A driver.
And Foster's talented, but he's a rookie.
Right.
And then DeFrancesco, let's be honest, brings
money.
Good funding and occasionally has speed, but the consistency isn't there.
Until you get serious and say, we're going to go get an A driver because Graham Rahal is not an A driver anymore, I can't take this team seriously whatsoever. Other than Sato having a chance to win his 500 on Sunday.
Absolutely. A legit shot. So let's shift to Sunday and talking about the race itself. Coverage on Fox starts at 10 a.m. Eastern with their pre-race, and then shifts for race coverage in the booth at noon. 12:45 Eastern, green flag. Fox has gone all out. You look at some of the things they have. It'll be in 4K, and I believe this is like the first time it's in up-converted 4K.
Ooh.
And 1080p HDR. They're going to have the race on the big screen in Times Square.
Sweet.
Which is cool. And the driver's eye thing is obviously going to be back again. There will be 6 drivers: Newgarden, Dixon, Palou, Power, Ericsson, Rosenquist. 17 drivers will have in-car cameras. I would love it to be all 33, but hey, it's progress. And Fox Deportes will broadcast the Indy 500 as well. Oriol Servia will serve as the lead analyst for that. So a lot of good stuff in terms of the broadcast. Yes, qualifying was down slightly, 924,000, down from 1.145 million last year for the Sunday session on NBC. All in all, though, I think we're seeing a lot of positive momentum with Fox and what they're doing. And I also think, look, having it on it's the Megazilla HD screen. It'll be the first time the race will be broadcast in Times Square. That's a positive. There's so many positives with what Fox is doing. So I think for us, you just hope that continues into a good TV rating and a good race. So let's talk about the race itself.
Yes, let's do that.
Obviously, you look at some of the favorites for this. A short list. If you were to take 3 drivers, because I have 3 drivers in mind,
let's see
and
if
you
they
can
match
have
up.
the field. Let's see if they match up. My 3: Pato, Sato, and Palou.
I have the exact same 3. And
Isn't that funny?
And I was actually going to put up this poll, and I still will, maybe tomorrow or maybe tonight on our Twitter page, is the very thing. Who are you picking to win the 500? Is it Pato O'Ward, Takuma Sato, Alex Palou, or the field?
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough because I think it's one of those 3, at least right now.
I do too. For Takuma Sato, he's qualified in the top 5 3 times now. In 2017, won the race. 2020, won the race. Obviously this year on the front row with his best starting position. I think he was, 3rd in 20 and 4th in 2017. So that puts it in perspective. I think for me, those 3 stand out. Pato O'Ward, obviously, I mean, you know the storylines, but he has his best starting position, his first front row start, which he said he didn't even care about pole. He just wanted to be on the front row to get that picture. And he got that picture. First Mexican driver to start on the front row for the Mexican-born driver started in the front row for the Indy 500. And then obviously Shwartzman, I think the other storyline is, what does he do? Does he lead a lap? I think it's a legitimate question. Does he lead lap 1? Does he lead a lap?
I mean, I hope it doesn't.
Average finishing position for a pole-winning driver going back to 2009 is 10.6.
I could see that average being pulled down on Sunday. We saw it
as well.
We saw it in Carb Day practice. I mean, Shwartzman, and this isn't an indictment on the team because of the accomplishment they did last week, is they just can't figure it out in traffic. And you're going to have to run in traffic, even in pole, to win this race. And I hope it's not a Scott Sharp lap 1, turn 1 type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Would it surprise me, though? No, not at all. But I think Shwartzman is not my pick as the highest finishing rookie. I'm going to go with Nolan Siegel. And
as am I. Wow, we are in sync.
Oh, look at us.
We are in sync.
So I have a hard time looking at Robert Shwartzman and seeing a guy that's going to even factor into this race throughout much of it. I think what they accomplished was tremendous, But I think what Sunday is going to show, and even what Carb Day practice shown, is they're still a rookie team with a rookie driver at the Indianapolis 500, and race day is a hell of a lot more difficult than qualifying.
Yes. Also of note, Ryan Hunter-Reay is switching to a backup car after the fire today, and Pato O'Ward finally milked a cow.
Saw that.
He didn't have the opportunity when he was a rookie in 2020 due to COVID, but he got that today because Robert Shwartzman it told him earlier in the week, hey, I understand everyone who milks, like, you have to milk a cow in order to win the race. So he participated. He was all in.
When the pole sitter tells you something like that, you
are all in. Okay, so we talked about our three favorites. Is there a guy you feel like who is off the radar? Maybe not necessarily a long shot, but someone who's off the radar who has a legit shot starting, towards the front to win this race. I have a certain pick in mind, but I'll let you go first. If
you teased your pick
Yes.
earlier today.
Yes.
I still don't know your pick, but my pick, and I mentioned it to you, is Felix Rosenqvist.
Okay.
When you look at what he's done first this year in terms of really kind of hitting the ground running, 4 top 10s, his lowest finish is third. But then you look at his Indianapolis 500 finishes, and they've left a lot to be desired.
But a guy who's contending usually.
Yes, usually is. I mean, he has finishes. His finishes are not an indicament of just how... Indicative, there you go.
Yes.
of just how competitive he has been. 2022 was his best finish and fourth, but it's been followed up by twin 27th place finishes.
But he was leading laps and contending late. Now, in one of those, the other he had an engine issue pretty
Correct.
early on.
I think it was was it last year he had the engine issue, I think?
Last year was the engine issue, yes.
In 23 he was in
55
contention.
laps. But yeah, 23 he crashed late.
But
so you're going with the Swede. Funny enough, I'm going with the other Swede.
Oh, really?
Marcus Ericsson. I don't feel like anyone has said a word about him this entire month.
Which is interesting for a former winner
Correct.
of the Indianapolis 500.
Correct. I think he's got a great starting spot. Made the Fast 12. There wasn't a whole lot that I saw in practice that kind of swayed me either way. I mean, he was 19th. But Carb Day practice is not an end-all, be-all. Yes, Joseph Newgarden's car was carving through the field, but that's been the case for every single practice session. But to me, Marcus Ericsson, a guy starting 9th, not on the radar anywhere in terms of a pick who's got a legit shot to win. That's the other one. Now, let's talk Newgarden and Power, because I know you said you don't think they can win this race.
I don't think so. I will say, though, with Marcus Ericsson, not only did he win it, the year later he finished second, and then last year, remember, he struggled throughout the qualifying and just got caught up in something on the opening lap, right?
Yes.
So when this guy is able to start towards the pointy end of the field, he is very, very dangerous, particularly the last 2 years in which he did. So I like it. But yeah, let's talk about Newgarden and Power.
So you say they can't win the race from the back, and my hot take, I agree.
All right. Too much agreeing in this.
Yes,
this
Newgarden's car by far looks the best that I've seen in traffic. But you mentioned the strategy changes, right? Stuff on the pit stand. I mean, that makes a difference. Yes, they've got the best pit crews, Power and Newgarden. Obviously, McLaughlin thrown in there too. But I think you're asking a lot. One, just getting through turn 1, lap 1, right? I mean, that's the first box you have to check. When you start in the back of the pack, those are the things you worry about. And you look at who's around you. Rinus VeeKay, who's really aggressive. Marcus Armstrong, who crashed in qualifying. This is his second Indy 500 start. You have Marco Andretti, who's very experienced. Graham Rahal, who's very experienced. But it's really hard to move up through the field. I mean, you look at the names starting pretty far back. Helio Castroneves, Kyle Kirkwood, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Colton Herta. I mean, they're all starting in rows 8 or 9 for perspective. So
a lot of speed back there.
Yes. Those are cars that you would expect some, if not all of them, to also carve their way through the field. Now, if you make it through turn 1, lap 1, is there a chance Newgarden and or Power could be top 10 around lap 50 or 60 once you made it through 1 or 2 stints? Yes. But it's one thing to get to the front, right? It's another to actually lead and contend. I mean, we last saw this in 2011 with Tony Kanaan, where he started 33rd, worked his way up to second, faded back.
What year was it where Juan Pablo Montoya had to pit early and was back in last?
And he did win the race, but he started up front.
Correct. There's two drivers. The worst starting position to win the Indianapolis 500 is 28th. It's happened twice. Interestingly, Ray Haroon started the race 28th in 1911. The other is Louis Meyer in 1936.
And Graham Rahal starting 28th, right?
Yes, this year. But nobody worse than starting position than 28th has ever won this race. Joseph Newgarden and Will Power are phenomenal talents. But there's a reason why nobody's won this race starting from that back. And there's been plenty of stories of really good drivers starting in the last row or the last two rows. It just doesn't happen. Like you, I can see them moving up through the field. I can see them getting into the top 10. I can see them really executing and it being a story. I cannot see them even finishing in the top 3, top 5. I don't see a top 5 finish for that.
Top 5 to me is the ceiling. Top 10 maybe is more realistic.
But
I understand it's a long race.
The only reason it's a story is because Joseph Newgarden is going for 3 in a row.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
We're not really talking about Will Power.
No.
People are talking about Joseph Newgarden. Can he do it? Which, in my opinion, Will Power is every bit as capable as Joseph Newgarden to do in terms of carving up into the field. But I just don't see it. I know it's a sexy story. To be 3 in a row from 32nd, the worst starting position. I don't see it.
Okay, what about a driver from the non-Big Four, excluding Sato, since we already mentioned him, that you think could win the race? More of a long shot.
That doesn't include Rosenquist because I picked him and he's Meyer Shank?
Yeah. The non-Big Four, I guess you throw in Shank because they have the Ganassi Alliance.
Yeah, and
obviously Sato because he's a former winner and we already picked him in that short list. Who would you go with?
Is it crazy to say Ed Carpenter? I know he doesn't start towards the front. It's always a story when Ed Carpenter's on pole. Did it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
But he's never been able to finish. But now he's starting in the middle of row 5.
Was the only, that's his best ever finish where he started on pole, right? And was second in a race that was very difficult to pass.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go with his teammate. I'm going to go with Alexander Rossi. I think, especially Carb Day today had the issue, but during the broadcast they said, very happy with the car, wanted to figure one thing out today, Friday practice. That's how happy he is with his car. So my pick outside of the top 4.5 teams, I guess, counting Meyer Shank, I'm going with Alex Rossi.
And it sounds like a homer pick since he's a Hoosier. I'm going with Connor Daly. Struggled early in the practice session on Carb Day, found some things late. He's been fast. That team has done a good job this month to start where he's starting, right next to Alexander Rossi, go figure. Very impressive. And it feels like the pieces are there. I understand it would be a big stretch for Juncos Hollinger to win this race, but he's been really good at Indy, 3 straight top 10 finishes, right? So I think this is another legit shot for him.
I think it's, when you talk about drivers, there's a lot to choose from. But when you start factoring in the teams and being able to execute, 5, 6, 7 pit stops over the course of 200 laps and 500 miles, can a team like Juncos, can a team like Ed Carpenter Racing execute flawlessly to make sure that guys like Connor Daly and Alexander Rossi are not losing positions in the pits that they then have to continuously regain on track? That's my biggest question. That's my biggest hurdle for some of these teams. I think Connor Daly is a great pick. I think Alexander Rossi is a great pick. My biggest thing for both of them is that pit crew. Can they execute?
And that's the one, I think, thing that is why people are picking Newgarden and Power,
right,
to charge their way through the field.
I mean, that's the thing with Robert Shwartzman too. Let's say he does stay up front and not just in first, but let's say he does stay in the window. Can Prema execute 5, 6, 7? We saw them struggle on Carb Day today when they were doing pit stop practice. Can they execute? That's the biggest thing too that a lot of people don't factor in is, yeah, it's sexy to pick some of these teams on lesser teams or drivers with lesser teams, but they got to execute on pit road.
Real quick, one last thing. Robert Shwartzman over under 20.5 finishing position.
I think higher.
So,
I mean, my worry is he puts it in the wall early.
Mm-hmm. So you think he's going to finish under 20.5?
Well, no, I still think. No, I think he finishes higher than 20.5.
Oh, okay. I agree.
I think if he can get through the first 15 or 20 laps, incident free, I think he can finish the race.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the emotions of starting on pole, particularly if
the electrical gremlins they've had all year.
Yeah, I mean that, and once you start getting past, I mean, heading into turn 1, and let's say Takuma Sato kind of cuts in front of him a little bit to take the lead, is how does he handle both mentally and the car in traffic in the big? It's still a rookie starting on pole, right? So,
I don't think I saw him pass a single car on track during Carb Day practice.
It just seemed like he was,
besides a car exiting the pits.
Right. It was a struggle for him on Carb Day. So I think if he can survive the first stint and the car doesn't have any gremlins, which is big if for everybody, but let alone Prema, I think he can finish above 20.5.
All right. Final thing.
Now here's a question for you regarding Robert Shwartzman. Regardless of what happens on Sunday, he's the rookie of the year, right?
He should be.
Okay.
Because it's not just the race results itself that go into account.
Right. Which we known in the past when Fernando Alonso won and all that stuff. But regardless, if he crashes lap 1, turn 1, he's still rookie of the year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He should be.
He damn well should be.
Okay, we gave our short list and said take these drivers or the field. You can have the field. Who was your ultimate pick?
My ultimate pick to win the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500 is Pato O'Ward.
As is mine. Oh my gosh. We've never been in this much alignment.
Unplanned.
Which means it's going to be so bad. We're going to be so off on all of these things.
Don't bet Pato O'Ward, people. Don't do it.
I'm so torn because I want to pick Sato. Having that issue today gave me a little bit of pause, and it was unspecified what the mechanical issue was for him during Carb Day practice. But yeah, it's wild. It just, he's got a great team. He's got a great car. He'll be starting up front. That's our pick. All right. Well, if you agree or disagree, and I'm sure you may disagree, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can always find us on social media. IndyCar Podcast, the handle on Twitter /X, also on Instagram, on Facebook, search for New Track Record. You can email us, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your questions, comments, or rants. And support us via Patreon, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Xavier and others for their support each and every month. And as always, download and listen on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So we had a ton of stuff for the mailbag. Had to kind of cut it down for obvious reasons with everything. So we start with a poll question on Team Penske. Thoughts on the Team Penske attenuator thing. Cheating or dumb? 75% of you said cheating. Exactly 100 votes. So a nice round number. That 52 car said, if you're cheating, would you really put it on a pedestal in a museum for the whole world to see? Because they didn't think it was cheating.
That's the thing. I just don't think they thought it was against the rules, because it is a good point. Why would you send it over to the museum with that?
Which I did check out the museum of the weekend. Amazing.
Amazing.
The starting
How long
line,
did it take you to get through it?
So you had to reserve a time.
Okay, I'm sure it was packed.
Yeah, it was very busy right when you walk in, and then it kind of spreads out.
Okay.
But I'd say 2 hours solid.
Okay.
You could spend more time. There's a lot of cool interactive stuff for kids.
Now, my question is, every time I see it, how do they get the Borg Warner out of there? Does it drop?
I don't know.
Down?
There's like a stand or something.
Right.
And obviously, it was not on display.
Yeah, so I'm wondering,
it must
like,
attach because it rotates around.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it just drops into the floor and goes down into, I don't know, somewhere to get it out. But
the starting line experience is so cool.
The immersive screens all over is just amazing. I didn't realize it was above you and all that stuff.
It cool. is incredible. I don't want to give more details away. They've already replaced the front row cars. I saw in a photo.
Really?
So it's no longer all Penske's, but yes, very cool. Jeff Cerneski said, in racing, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Be curious if this was missed on Saturday's tech inspections. That's the ultimate question, and we'll never know. Tony Vogt said, for the tinfoil hat wearers, maybe they want a bigger story than the fact that as of Sunday morning, 3 cars had gone airborne. I don't know. I'm not into conspiracies that much.
No, I just kind of looked at that as... I mean, it's going to be great data, obviously, for the series and the safety crews, but I don't know. It just kind of react the way I expected a car to react when you go into the wall for 235 mile an hour and then turn to the side and air gets under the car.
It was amazing that Armstrong and Herta made qualification attempts same day with their crashes. Wild. And the fact they're good to go, it's obviously a positive. Jeremy from HBG said they were cheating. They were really dumb about it, especially how they dealt with it on pit lane in front of the other competitors, national TV audience. Goes on to talk about, starting less cars. Obviously, that's not a factor now. Pagoda Press said, push to pass, I think, was just a genuine mess up. This was an alteration purposely done. I feel like both were purposely done.
One was malicious. I think one was just clueless.
Yes.
Maybe? I don't know if...
Yeah, the push to pass actually felt more malicious. This I think, seemed more clueless.
Yeah, just... They did it. Nobody caught it for a year. That's why I just keep pointing to it. The tech is the biggest
issue. Correct. Nifty Car 52, you could convince me push to pass thing last year was an oversight. This stuff with the attenuator, you don't accidentally modify parts. That's intentional cheating, obviously.
So they're the opposite of what we say. Okay.
CJ9 said if they were dumb on purpose, but why not cheat on all 3 cars? Well, they probably would have, but McLaughlin crashed, right?
Right.
that's the way I look at it.
Didn't have time to do that.
They didn't have time to change it. They cycled through those parts as it is, but yeah, I kind of agree. Elsewhere on the Penske stuff and cheating scandal and everything at play, so many things.
Plenty of opinions.
You had posted, how long till the team owners that whine about Team Penske's cheating hire the talented guys who cheated? A lot of good replies. I want to highlight one in particular, Nick J. Fletcher. It's the guy ducking out from the tree with his hands kind of clasped, like ready, Brown. But it's Zach Brown's face photoshopped on. I thought that was perfect. Elsewhere on the mailbag, as we try to get to some, can't get to all just because there are so many entries this week. Back and forth, and I thought this was good. So the Parkside cards, apparently not in Targets. People were looking.
Supposed to be.
And they're supposed to be. MS Colton Mark, who I think works for IndyCar or IMS, said it's up to the distribution vendor Target uses. Parkside makes a deal with the vendor, provides the product. Both of those things have occurred. Now it's up to the distributor and Target to handle the rest. Stuff was on Target's online store. And then R. Cole said the problem is that Parkside sent a release telling consumers that the product would be available in person at brick and mortar Target stores, not just online. And Michael Colton Mark followed up, said should be once they supply the product to the distributor at Target out of their hands. So he said, I have no doubt they'll be in stores eventually, as that was the plan.
The problem is like you missed your best.
Yeah, you missed the window.
You're leading up to the biggest event of the year for IndyCar and one of the biggest races in the world. Like this was your moment to really unveil these and maybe sell quite a few of them.
Yes, that's the problem. I fully agree. Elsewhere, another thing on the Penske attenuator stuff, comparison side by side. Travis Long said 100 in terms of clear evidence. Penske has been doing this a while. However, it's on IndyCar Tech to catch this stuff in pre- and post-race inspection. You'd posted that. Sky said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Katie said, and if the other teams knew and didn't raise it, that's on them. With _drama_V2, the number of people getting their vapors over this is honestly impressive. Didn't think we had that many fans left. Hey, it's Indy 500 week.
Exactly.
Jonathan Thiebold said, yeah, I feel like that one's on IndyCar. Kind of weird. No one noticed that for a year. Correct. I am Greg K. Seems like an obvious action to blend seams. And NASCAR Dog 69. Everyone complaining at Penske for doing something that every other team is doing, but might not be the same part they're doing it on, but any racing team is going to push the limit. IndyCar should have caught them, and it didn't. Case closed. Tony said they clearly never tried to hide Honda, and every other team had a year. And then he points this out. NASCAR Dog 69 said, it's all just incredible timing. I find it concerning. IndyCar has a rule that hasn't been changed in the last year, and it took them all the way until day 2 of qualifying in year 2 to even catch it. Yeah, that's the one thing that is super suspicious. I'm glad we got to that because that's another thing I wanted to highlight. These teams waited for the perfect time to pounce on this.
Didn't they? I feel like a part of me is, yes, they knew about this for a long time and just waited, as you said, for the perfect moment to complain. And it worked like a charm.
That it did. Elsewhere, other thoughts. St. Mike football. Michael Samil said, just listen to last Friday's podcast. First time ever pole winner was predicted to miss the race with a smiley face.
By me.
Hey, look, we all thought he had a legit shot to miss the race. And then on the email, this from Eric H. on predictions. Finally getting to your last podcast post-qualifying. Just had to mention how comical your predictions are sounding after the fact. We pretty much got the exact opposite with a crying, laughing emoji. Hey, look. Here's the thing. We weren't alone in this, all right?
We weren't alone, but at least you picked him to make the race. I did not.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I picked him in the last row shootout.
We should have taken that episode down after qualifying. It did not exist, just erase it from everybody's memory.
And
we'll
then,
own our errors, and Lord knows I make a lot of them.
Yes, it happens. I feel like, though, we were in line with everyone else. I mean, they weren't even like ready for practice.
Not at all.
On Tuesday. So I think that just kind of goes to show you how wild this is. And Kojo617, same thing, just getting around to listening to New Track Record Pod from last week. Pole sitter was picked to crash and miss the race. Fantastic. LOL, I'm still in shock too. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
No one expected this to happen. And I think this is a good thing for IndyCar. And that's kind of where we're at. Obviously, a lot of other thoughts on the Penske scandals and stuff. Couple other qualifying related things from Mom 2X over 2002. Do you think if Indy Lights ran ovals, especially the Freedom 100 that they used to run, rookies like Abel would have done better in qualifying? I don't think so. I think that was just not a quick car. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
And then also she had this. How can Rahal, the team, be so inconsistent? How can their one-off with Sato be so amazing? The rest of the team be bad? It was the same thing last year, right?
Yeah.
We've seen this multiple times.
I think Sato is just one of the greatest drivers to ever race at the Speedway. Not calling him a great driver overall. I think he just knows exactly what he wants. I think he can figure out everything that he needs, and it just suits him. And that's not something that others, particularly within that team, can figure out. He's a master around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And that's been the case
in whatever he's driving,
for a while.
Right?
Yes. Doesn't matter the team, he's made to go.
He gets it going. He knows what to do.
One final mailbag thought, this from Snarky Moose S2000_Moose. Talking about last week, said, great podcast. Well, that makes one of you. But by the numbers, there's more overlap between IndyCar fans and F1 fans than between IndyCar and NASCAR. Two of the lowest rated IndyCar races were when Road America went against F1 Canada. Gateway originally was against both, which was idiotic. So that puts in perspective why those time changes, if you missed it last week, time changes. Gateway going to be a Sunday night race. Looking forward to that. Why that was probably done. All right, we've gone through the mailbag as swiftly as we could. Time for news and notes. A few other things left. Penske, in an interview, trying to prevent Honda from leaving, said, we're doing everything we can to renew the contracts. Good through 26. Want to renew those contracts. One or two manufacturers have also shown interest at this point, and we speculated Toyota and Porsche were those. Also, in that Fox Sports interview, the new car set to hit the track in October or November per Penske. No renderings on carb day. We thought we'd have a big announcement. Didn't think it'd be Team Penske firing three of their top employees. I don't know if that counts.
No, it does not count, but it was disappointing we didn't have anything, big announcements for the series for the future, but we did have plenty of news this week.
Yes. Joseph Newgarden didn't speak on the attenuator stuff, didn't discuss the firings either, but says he'd like to do the double. Also would love for Ryan Blaney to do it as well. That per Jenna Fryer. Elsewhere, some pre-race stuff. Natalie Grant will do the national anthem. Ephraim Owens, who is an Indianapolis native, was on The Voice. I believe he is the brother of a guy I went to college with.
Oh, really?
But he will sing America the Beautiful. He was on, season 24 on The Voice. We got news. The honorary starter and waving the green flag is one of Jim Irsay, the late Jim Irsay, who passed away, Indianapolis Colts owner, but will be one of his 3 daughters, will be the honorary starter for this year's Indy 500, Casey Irsay Foyt. She is married to AJ Foyt IV.
Okay, well, there you go.
But she's the honorary starter, will wave the green flag as a tribute Jim Irsay's impact and the relationship between IMS and the Colts. So it's a cool thing. There's rumors of Caitlin Clark. I think that's a rumor every year now. But it will be Casey Irsay Foyt waving the green flag. 100 Days to Indy launched last night on Fox Nation, streaming now. I believe they're airing it on Big Fox tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 or 3:30 Eastern, something like that. So just check your local listings, as they say.
Yep.
Elsewhere, other things, it'll be virtual reality for the Indy 500 as well.
Ooh,
I don't know if you saw that. Simon Pagenaud is going to be with Scott McLaughlin again, also working with Teo Pourchaire to help him get back into IndyCar. So that's some positive news.
Really cool story. I think it was Marshall Pruitt about Scott McLaughlin. First Simon Pagenaud really kind of battling, and he's never really opened up about the particulars of his health issues.
Mm-hmm.
We know it was a severe concussion and that, but basically breaking down the fact that he wasn't in a good place at one point, and it just turned out that was it Chevy that reached out to him to help in the simulator in Charlotte, and really kind of lifted his spirits considerably and turned into then his opportunity with Team Penske. So it was a really good story if you haven't read it at racer.com.
Good stuff there. A few other notes to get to. Speaking of a good story, Nathan Brown of IndyStar.com, great write-up on Pato Award. I don't know if you had the chance to check that out.
I kept seeing it teased. I haven't read it yet.
But it's quite good, kind of just talking about his career and the sacrifices he's made. The biggest thing I learned from this story, Pato Award is an introvert. Would you have ever guessed that?
Never would have thought about that.
Right?
It's difficult to be an introvert when you have a fan base that the way he does.
So it's kind of talking about making sure you recharge the batteries, so to speak. There's a hybrid joke, I'm sure, to be made in there, which the hybrids I thought were fun for qualifying.
They were
quite
absolutely fun.
For once, it was fun. Correct. And not something taking away. Let's see. What else? We have some TV numbers from the last week or so, thanks to listener and tagging us all the time, Tyler Wong on Twitter, Tyler Wong65. So for qualifying on Saturday, for the first portion on FS1, 436,000 viewers. On FS2, 205,000 for the later afternoon. Obviously, I mentioned these Sunday numbers. Elsewhere, practice viewership. Tuesday, 113,000 on FS1. These are all FS1 except for Sunday. Wednesday, 114,000. Thursday, 106,000. Friday, 155,000. Fast Friday bump. Sunday, 208,000 on FS2 for the Last Chance and Fast 12 practice. And then Sunseo GP, IndyCar Practice 1 had 26,000 viewers. Indy Lights, 27,000. They had a better TV time slot, I believe. IndyCar Practice 2, 32,000. Indy Lights qualifying 45K. IndyCar qualifying 118K. Indy Lights race 1, 92K. Saturday, the warm-up, 130,000. And Lights race 2, 120,000. So just a few data points so far. But averages throughout. We know races at 859,000. Warm-ups, 227,000 viewers. Qualifying, 290,000 viewers. Practices, 109,000 viewers so far. Still probably 5 times what you're getting on Peacock.
Yeah, definitely. It's tough to find something to compare it to.
We never got Peacock data except for the Indy 500 itself.
No, not at all. So good to see those numbers. I don't know if they're any good or not because we have nothing to compare it to.
No, but it looks good to us.
Sure.
Anything that we missed? I know there was a lot to cover.
It's a lot to get to and a lot on our minds heading into the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. I know a lot of people were waiting for the podcast release, and we're just busy people. It's tough for us to get together. So worked out on Friday. So we'll be back next week to recap the 109th running.
All right, let's get to, since we've gone through all the news, all the other stuff, let's get to our tweets of the week, and we have quite a bit. Every team account that posted a graphic where they just went in and edited the starting positions and just slapping new numbers on there, they get an award. Chip Ganassi Racing started with the update, and then with
just like the slash
Kiffin Simpson's 15 crossed out with a 13. But they started the trend, and several others followed. Alexander Rossi had posted a while back. Lots to talk about on Ask Off Track this week, back on May 16th. And then on May 19th, it said, and the list keeps getting longer, LOL. And then on May 19th, a GIF of a guy opening a long scroll. Thought that was great.
That was good, yes.
Connor Daly, Fast 12 is lit this morning. Great work from the Juncos Hollinger AM/PM squad overnight because, he moved up into the Fast 12. Kiffin Simpson, overtaken 2 cars, and we haven't even started yet. That was good. Chip Ganassi Racing, the meme of the guy looking back at the other girl walking away.
That was good.
The Indy 500 logo with the girl scoffing and the guy looking back at the Weenie 500 logo, the girl walking away. That was solid as well. Renus VK.
This was good.
Big wiener guy with the Oscar Mayer wieners lined up on the track. And then VK's quote earns the official, the best tweet of the week. We had so many tweets, but this one stood out among a solid crop. And Jenna Fryer posted, Renus VK said, "If you told me a week ago I'd be starting on the same row with 2 Penskes, I'd have been thrilled."
Well, he is, but it is on row 11.
Yeah, not quite where you want to be.
Not at all.
And finally, IndyCar on Fox, Alex Palou looking at Joseph Newgarden's car with a smile, and Newgarden looking on, knowing he is screwed. Oh, and I forgot there's one more. Arnie Sribbin of IndyCar Necktie on Twitter. This is the same car. Can't tell me I'm wrong. And it's Robert Shwartzman's car, and then Francesco Bernoulli from Cars 2. It's the same car.
Nice.
All right, time for our random split era driver of the week, Indy 500 edition.
Now, I think we've done this guy before, but he's not on my master list, so we're just going to pretend we haven't. But Jacob Abel has still never made an Indianapolis 500.
Uh-huh.
So he shares that moniker with Doug Dodaro.
Ooh, yes.
Who never made an Indianapolis 500. In the year 2000, with Mid-America Motorsports, who I don't remember.
Nope.
How about you? Attempted to make the Indianapolis 500 in the year 2000 with a Dallara Oldsmobile. Did not qualify. And that was it. That was his one and only opportunity and chance to qualify for the Indianapolis 500. Overall, he did 6 races in the Indy Racing League for Mid-America Motorsports through 1999-2000. Again, I've never heard of Mid-America Motorsports. His best finish was 2000 at Walt Disney World with a 14th place finish. That was also the same year he tried to make the Indy 500 and failed. Did a couple of Busch Series races. He dominated at Oswego Speedway in super modifieds.
I've heard of that track.
I think it was, I remember racing it. It was on the early NASCAR Thunder games.
How's that in Illinois? Right?
It is in New York.
Oh, New York. Okay,
Oswego, New York. So it's a 5/8 mile track, and it's asphalt, but has been covered in dirt at time or another for some dirt races. But he's also one of the all-time winningest drivers in the history of the track. Came back in the late 90s, early 2000s, probably early 2000s after he was done with IRL racing, and did some super modifieds, was the winner of the 2008 Oswego Speedway International Classic. Now, this is funny. And again, I don't know who writes these Wikipedia things, but this is the exact quote. Following 2008 Classic, Dodaro returned to full-time racing action with moderate success. He retired at the end of the 2010 season after conflicts with his car owner as well as other drivers at Oswego Speedway. So I don't know what happened between Doug Dodaro and his car owner and the other drivers at Oswego Speedway. But I guess pissed off the wrong people eventually. But won 3 consecutive track championships, 94, 95, 96 at Oswego Speedway. Did some IMSA racing as well. But in terms of the Indy Racing League, 6 race starts, 7 race attempts. His lone attempt at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway did not qualify in the year 2000, so is in that category with Jacob Abel at least until the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500.
The 2000 Indy 500, they had alternates at one point. They were known as alternates, who were bumped, and those who failed to qualify. It's a who's who of random split air drivers.
And I think we've done them. Well,
most of them.
There's one down at the bottom I don't think we've done.
There's one. There are 2 that I never recall seeing. Now, Dr. Jack Miller, Scott Harrington, Davy Jones, Robbie Unser, who's really not random just because of the last name. Same with Davy Jones, right? Dan Drynan, Roberto Guerrero, obviously not really random either. Former pole sitter Doug Dodaro, who just did Mimo Gidley, borderline random. Hideshi Matsuda, don't remember him, and Ross Cheever, brother of Eddie Cheever,
who I never knew.
I did not know. Entered and tested, did not attempt a qualifying lap.
So at least with the final 2 there, I think we have a couple more random split air drive of the week candidates.
Oh, for sure. For sure. All right. That does it. Indy 500 preview. Picks sure to be incorrect. We'll talk about it next week. Hey, the pole sitter was picked to be bumped. Who knows what happens with our race picks?
They can't be any worse, right?
No, it can't get worse. It's only up from here. Only up from here. For Justin Kinney, I am Caleb Batch. Thanks for joining us on our preview of the 109th running of the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500-mile race. This has been New Track Record Podcast.